Shalom Aleichem, everybody in the Project Inspire audience. It's always inspiring to talk to people looking for inspiration. So let's get started. I called the shir Va'atem Tacharishon, and you shall remain silent, relying on miracles. And it's sort of an ironic title, is that Hashem wants us to remain silent, but on the other hand, we're really not supposed to rely on miracles. So I just spoke about this for Purim, and I want to say what I said for Purim and then tell you the new version of what I have to say for Pesach. The Purim talk was also this Atem Tacharishon, but from the opposite angle, meaning that in the context of Purim, the definitive moment maybe in the Megillah is where Mordechai tells Esther, you got to go to Achashverosh. And the words he uses are Im hacharesh tacharishi le'es kazois. If you will remain silent at this moment, then it's all for naught. And this is your moment. This is what you were here for, and this is your whole family and your whole history was leading up to this moment, and you have to be up to the moment. But over here, the Torah uses exactly the same word, hacharishun, tachari, and it says va'atem tacharishun, you shall remain silent. And I guess for both Yamim Tovim, you have to explain why they're opposite approaches. My Purim talk was explaining why Esther had to not be silent. God forbid you should be silent. If you remain silent, it'll be a tragedy. And for Pesach, we have to defend why it is that we're required to be silent. Fatim Tacharishim. So the idea I said for Purim was really, I want to say it because it's a paradigm shift, and I don't know how many people heard that speech, but the Hebrew word for silence really has a different meaning. The word for silence in the Torah is really plowing, to be choresh, the first malacha, right? The malacha on Shabbos, the third malacha is plowing is forbidden on Shabbos. The word for plowing is called charisha, lacharesh, to plow. What is the relationship between plowing and silence? So this is how Torah is so cool. It's like, listen to this. There's two stages in growth. There's the glorious stage, which is growth. Seeding and planting. Everybody wants to be a cedar, or flowers, or fields of waving grain. And this is the image of beauty, is the planted field, an orchard, beautiful fruit. The less glorious stage is plowing. Is taking your metal, your iron, your steel blade, and with a pack of oxen, and ruining the beautiful soil in the perfect field. But we understand that plowing is integral and essential for anything that's going to grow. The relationship of plowing to planting is exactly the relationship between action or speaking and silence. Silence is the stage of the plowing. The reason you have to plow before you seed is you have to loosen up the soil and open up the soil so that the seeds can penetrate deep into the ground and take root, and the minerals can be loosened up so that the entire growth can take place. And that's exactly what the role of silence is. The wisdom the Torah is sharing with us, that in that idea that plowing and silence is the same, it wants you to understand silence not as the absence of speech. Silence isn't an act of meekness, of passivity. It is the brave act of allowing yourself to be opened up so that the growth and the powerful things can happen. And that's how we have to see silence. And that essentially was the explanation of why in the initial stage of Jewish history we had to have Atem Tacharishon, you had to be silent. And because first you have to go through the plowing. And it's only at the later stages and that's why it says hacharesh tacharishi. It's a double expression. If you will be silent, meaning that plowing is beautiful, but it's just a preparatory stage. You can't plow forever. Enough with the plowing. It's time to start to seed. The first stage, as we begin as a nation, you have to begin with the silence, to allow the experience to penetrate. I remember going on vacations and going on trips and sitting there with a camera, making sure I got every perfect shot. And you really have no memories of the moment because you were so busy, preserving it for the future that the present didn't take place. It's a different experience to put down the camera and absorb everything that's happening. And okay, then you can preserve it, but there's something at least that you wish you preserved. To preserve something that just reminds you of empty moments is, I guess the perfect world is both. Is the synthesis of a atem tacharishon and a hacharish tacharishi. You have to experience the moment and therefore be silent and allow the things to penetrate, especially in the formative stages. And it's after everything's taken root and the ground's been loosened up and the minerals are exposed and the seeds are have the perfect place to put them in, that now you can begin to plant. And that's how we have to see this stage in history. That was my Purim talk. Okay, now let me give you the Pesach talk. The Pesach talk is I have no problem with the Purim talk. It's just I think that there's a much not that this isn't large, but there's a much larger message here. There are certain huge, we call them sugyas, huge fields of study within Judaism that need to be fleshed out. And the place of miracles, I think, is one of the least understood, or least clarity. It needs a lot of clarity. It needs some light shined on it, and that's what I want to do. What is the role of miracles? So first, let me start with what I assumed for years, and I'm sure many of you assumed, and then we'll see if that's actually going to be the case. The way I understood miracles is essentially a safety net that Hashem controls the world, and he'll catch you if you fall, but you're not supposed to rely on miracles. We grew up hearing that you shouldn't rely on miracles. Why shouldn't you rely on miracles? Because miracles are, you want to, I always use the Masada metaphor for these kind of things. You go to Masada, there's always the guy who takes the cable car, but 90% of the group kids in the trip do the work and they climb the mountain. It's harder, you get sweaty, it takes a long time, and you get to the top, you're worn, you're tired, but you climb Masada, and your experience on the top is vastly different because of the way you made your journey. The guy who took the cable car, he's a fraud. He doesn't feel the same way. You can tell which is the guy who took the cable car. So life is supposed to be where we eat the fruits of our labor. Maybe I'll go off on a tangent because this is a question I get a lot. There's a very famous Jewish concept that many people have heard called the bread of shame, nama de kisufa. And we understand the reason why God gave us free choice and didn't make us all of God. Like the Jewish idea is that God created the world only to give. He's not here to torture us. He only wants to give. He's a loving God. He wants to give. So the question is, why weren't we born then already in the world to come, or ready with all the gifts? If God wanted to give, why couldn't he just give? God can do what he wants. He should have just given it to us. And the answer is that it's impossible to give the perfect gift. Because by definition, the perfect gift is imperfect. Because a gift is lacking in pride. In a gift, you're a beggar. In a gift, you feel guilty and you feel ashamed. And therefore, the perfect gift is not a gift at all. The perfect gift is the opportunity to earn it for yourself. And God, who wants to give, he wants to give in a godly way, in the perfect way. And the perfect gift, therefore, is not a gift. The perfect gift is earned. And that's why we have free choice, and a whole complicated world of good and evil is also that we can ultimately experience the top of the Masada through our own journey and not take a cable car. Because it would be a very sad experience if the world to come was achieved through a cable car. We wouldn't want to spend eternity at the great feast feeling guilty and ashamed the whole time. Okay, that's the famous idea. And most thinkers and people who are on Torah Anytime classes probably have heard this, or in Project Inspire classes have heard this already. The next level question that thinkers ask on this is, so why did God have to create the concept of shame, of guilt? Why couldn't he have made people without that monkey on their back? And therefore they could have experienced, God did everything. So he created a problem that needed to be solved by all this complexity. Just create people without that problem. Create a world where you're oblivious to earning things. So, listen, people think it's a great question. I can't tell you how proud students are when they come to me, Rabbi, I have a good question. It's a good question, but it's not really a good question. Because the answer is so obvious. When you think about it, I'm surprised people don't realize it right away. Why I need to say it is that it's not a game shame. It's not something that God arbitrarily created, and why do you have to do that? it's just a reality of logic. It's a law of existence. Is that if you didn't create it yourself, you don't really have it. You're not really, perfection requires self-sufficiency. If you didn't earn it yourself, then it's not really the full experience. People misunderstand the bread of shame as some made-up psychological, quirk that God put into people. No, it's if you want to be perfect, you want to experience totality, so then you have to be the whole package. If you need something else, then that, we call it shame, so it sounds arbitrary. It's not shame, it's the lack of self-sufficiency. It's a lack of perfection. You're dependent on others. So you can never, if I'm dependent on someone else, I can never feel the total feeling of total self-worth. We together can experience self-worth as a community, and that's how we live. But independently, we need, if I don't earn something, and you gave it to me, it's not a quirk, it's a fact that I don't really have it. I didn't earn it. This is a truth. It's just reality. So that's how we understand the real understanding of the bread of shame. And therefore, that doctrine, is that you got to earn things, and everyone understands this. You don't need classes to explain this. Why it's better to earn your money than to inherit money. It's easier to inherit, but why we men don't want to ask directions. Why we sit for hours and doing riddles, and I'm doing a riddle and you want to give me a hint because you want to leave already. I'm not taking hints. Don't tell me a riddle if you don't have all the time in the world, because I'm old. I don't think so fast anymore, but I'm not going to let you help me. So I'm going to be there all day figuring out what the trick is and what the catch is and doing the math, and because I got to figure it out. That's a reality of how we are. So that's why intuitively miracles are not the ideal way to go. A miracle is leaving us lacking. So that's the way, maybe a fancier way of explaining it, but that's the way I was raised, and most of us think about it. If you can sum it up, my whole long speech in one sentence, is that it's better to do things yourself. Don't rely on a miracle. God already is God. This is your chance to shine, so shine. Don't ask for him to shine on you. But we need a safety net, because we can fall, and life is hard. So there is a role. I understand there's a role for miracles. The role of miracles is you go try and make some money, and you raise a family, and if things go wrong, we have Social Security, we have unemployment, we'll have government stimulus. You'll get your check or your deposit, and but that's not, ideally you shouldn't need that. So that's miracles, and that would be a shiur, and we would stop there. The reason why I have another half an hour left to go is because here's where it gets complicated, is that it doesn't seem like that in Judaism. If miracles were a safety net, then when would we talk about miracles? The metaphor I like to use is in the circus. You have the guy who walks the tightrope. So he walks the tightrope. His goal is not to fall off a tightrope, even though we put a safety net there. The goal is to do his flips and his old shtick and to ace the tightrope, to do it perfectly. The idea that there's a safety net is just a last resort. We don't want him to splatter if something goes wrong. So if that's the case, so if that's life, God put you in the world, let's do it, let's do the job, let's feel proud of ourselves, let's eat the fruits of our labor, let's stand at the top of our mountain. I talk a lot to college kids, a lot of potheads, so this is how it's all they want to talk about is Rabbi, what's wrong with doing marijuana? It's illegal already. So what I explain to them is this. I explain to them, what's wrong with it is just you come to a mountain, you can climb the mountain and feel like $1 million, or you can take a nap at the bottom of the mountain. If you climb the mountain, so it's hard work, and you can break your neck and you can catch pneumonia, but you get to the top, you feel great. I go with my buddy, and he goes, "This is a dangerous mountain. I'm not climbing this mountain." But you see how much shade there is? You could have a nap here like nobody ever had. So one buddy takes a nap at the bottom of the mountain. The other guy climbs the mountain. So we both do the same thing. The guy in the bottom is like this, lying flat on the floor. The guy climbs to the top. A week later, he gets there. He lies on top of the mountain, does exactly the same thing. But nobody would say they're doing the same thing. right? The guy in the bottom is chilling. He's didn't do anything. The guy in the top, he's vibing. He's sitting there like he did it. It's the same posture, but don't mix it up. The problem with shortcuts is that you didn't climb the mountain. You just feel like you climbed the mountain, but you didn't climb the mountain. Life is about the achievement. So if that's the case, so then when should we talk about miracles? The whole Jewish calendar should be all about hard work. We should have a holiday about waking up early, and a holiday about pulling up your bootstraps, and a holiday about discipline and structure and responsibility and loyalty and ethics and diligence and vigilance. A lot of holidays. And then the last holiday, and if all else fails, the last holiday should be, and now we have safety net holiday. If this all fails, don't worry, God will catch you, and he'll come in and wave the wand or Moshe's staff, and everything will, Moshe is like our fiery godfather, that's what Moshe is, and he's the guy who's going to turn everything, right, all the pumpkins into coaches, and everything will be perfect in the end because we didn't do it ourselves. The problem is that that's not the reality. The reality is the first mitzvah the Torah gives us is HaChodesh Hazel Lochem Rosh Chodoshim. This is the beginning of your calendar. The first month is the month of Nisan, the month of miracles. Judaism begins with splitting seas and plagues, weirder plagues one after another, every plague miraculous. The waters have to split, we walk through the middle. This is far from a safety net. The entire role of Judaism over here the role of miracles in Judaism seems to be the first stage, the most important stage. Then we have a Seder where we sit down with our kids and we do weird things just to make them ask about the miraculous. And we talk about the miraculous. And we talk about God's plagues. And we count the plagues. And we count all the miracles. And it's very hard to reconcile the Judaism that we know of in the texts and in our experience with the Judaism that logically we assume it is. The assumption is earn it. Miracles are a backup plan, but the reality of Judaism seems to be that we're missing the boat on miracles. Miracles have a whole different role. I'll just, because the people who are in these kind of classes probably have a little more background and thought, so I'll stick in something I normally wouldn't stick in. Because the Haggadah starts off, we refer to God by a very rare name of God that we don't normally refer to him as Baruch HaMakom. Baruch HaMakom, right? The four sons begins with the phrase of referring to Hashem as the Makom. It's a strange name of God. And those of you who know this will recognize that name HaMakom shows up it's most known as the name of God you use in a house of mourning. We say HaMakom Yenachem Eschem, God will comfort you. And the name for God we use there is HaMakom. HaMakom means the place. So how do we explain the idea of HaMakom? What is the connotation of HaMakom? So this is a cool thing, and really, I don't know why I went here, because I should spend the whole class explaining just this point. I'll say it fast. We do the Kedusha. In Shmona Esrei, we have, right, in the second blessing, when the Chazan repeats it, we do something called the blessing of holiness. And Kedusha is a few stanzas, a few lines that we say responsively. The first one is called Kavodo Moleolam, that God's honor, his splendor, his honor, his respect fills the entire world. That's the phrase. We say Kadosh, 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 right? Everyone puts their feet together and you raise yourself up. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Hashem tzivakos malei kala aretz kavod. Hashem's splendor, his honor fills the entire world. The next paragraph says, Mimkomo hu yifen berachamim. From his place he will turn to us with mercy. Now, when you get into prayers, everyone just gets all flowery, and unfortunately we don't think of it as something precise that needs to be analyzed. But that's exactly what it is. And when you analyze it, you realize this is weird, because it's really, the two lines are in a total conflict with each other. Is his kavodo, his honor, mole kol ha'olam? Is he filling the entire world? Right? Is God everywhere? Or is it min koima, his place? He can't be everywhere and have a place. Which one is it? So this is the idea of the two phrases. First we say kavodo mole olam, that God exists everywhere, that everything is godly, and you just have to invest yourself in life. And the way we experience God is in my house, in shul, in my office. There's a godly life and a godly marriage and a godly parenting, and there's being a godly student and a godly teacher and a godly boss and a godly employee. There's a way to live life. And what we do is in the course of our lives, if every one of us lives a holy spiritual life, then our life is holy. And that's what we mean when we say kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh is the sound of every individual embodying his holiness, living life a certain way. And that kind of holiness fills the entire world. It is the symphony of existence where every element of the world is proclaiming God through his everyday life. And that's kadosh. That's the kedusha of God that fills the world. But then, let's say it doesn't work. Let's say you're not successful in any field, in all fields. Then you can appeal to a different version of God. Yes, God revealed himself in the world, and all you need to do is live an ethical, moral life, and you'll have blessing. But sometimes we're too depressed, and we can't do that. I know if I went to work, I'd make a living. I know if I study with my kids, I'll have nachas. I know if I do what it takes, everything will work out. But that ship sailed, and I'm too broken. And I can turn to Hashem and say, Hashem, I can't experience the you that's in the world. I need the you above the world, the God who's above it all, beyond it all. You turn to me with mercy, berachamim. Kavodo is mali olam, is justice. I earn it. Mimkomo, from his place, hu yifem berachamim, God turns in mercy. Mercy is the miraculous side of God. That's beyond this world. It's his place. There's two versions of God. There's the God that embodies all of existence. And this is when you say Kedusha, this is what you're supposed to think. You're supposed to think first, Kavoidei Mali Olam, Hashem fills the world. And then we say, but if that fails, then Hashem, you will turn to me with mercy. Miracles and mercy to me are synonymous. And justice and reality and nature are synonymous. In fact, the word Elokim, which is the name of justice, has the same numerical value as nature. Nature and the God who fills the world are the same. And miracles and mercy, the God above who I didn't earn, he's going to carry me, that's also the same. So in Kedusha, the script is exactly like we would expect. First we talk to the God of justice, and only then, when that doesn't work, then we say to the God of mercy, Mimkamo. And this is what we do in the Haggadah, this is what we do in House of Mourning. When life didn't go the way we want, when someone's died and we feel the loss, then we don't talk about the God as he's revealed in the world. We say, Hamakom Yenachem Eschem, the God beyond the physical world, the God who when life is not recognized, with the perfection of life and the justice is not cognizant, it's not recognizable, then we turn to Hashem, we say, Mimkomo hu yifim berachim. The makom will comfort you. Hashem's merciful God who's beyond, you're not going to understand this. And that's the same God that we talk about, ironically. I'm not going to go there, but that's the God that we relate to in the Haggadah. The Haggadah is the God of Mikomo, the God beyond this world. And that's the same God who wants me to be silent and don't do anything. Atem tacharishin, you should be silent. Not the plowing idea. But the idea is that for some reason, even though in the normative way of thinking of it, we say kavodo moli olam before Makomo. First we try and do it ourselves and then we appeal to the God. The holiday of Pesach is different. The holiday of Pesach is introduced by the God who is Makomo, the God beyond the world, the God of mercy and of magic. And by the splitting of the sea, Hashem says, you be silent. And by all the plagues, everything is the hand of Hashem, none of our hands. There's no role for us. We leave, we go in the desert, all the food is magical. Everything's magic. There's nothing earned. So now I have to explain why that's the case. We explained what it is, and we explained how it's really the opposite of the way we normally understand Judaism. And why are miracles all of a sudden front and center when it comes to Pesach? And if Pesach was the last month of the year, it would make sense why miracles are front and center. But Pesach is the first thing. It's our first holiday. This is the first month. Why are we beginning with the safety net? Why don't we begin with the tightrope? What's the glory of jumping in a safety net at the beginning of the production? It's only supposed to catch you when you fall. So here's where we understand, this is, I think, the entirety of what Pesach is. And everything I said now, I said it with such confidence, and like I had no right to say that. It was misleading, because miracles have nothing to do with catching you when you fall. That's not the reason for miracles. If they was to catch you when you fall, then it would be exactly like we said. It would be an afterthought in Judaism, and everything we'd ever read about would be about doing it yourself. And we wouldn't be having holidays with plagues and splitting seas, and every mitzvah wouldn't be, and remember the leaving of Egypt. The leaving of Egypt should be a source of shame that God had to carry us. We're a proud people. How come everything is that God carried us? God took us out of Egypt, and we were just props, little marionettes, right? So, what are we missing? What are we missing it's probably maybe the most important thing that people need to know. Is let's talk about why people don't succeed in life. Why do we need a safety net? Why are safety nets necessary? Why don't people succeed at their tightropes? Between me and you, it's a good question. Everyone, if you're not drunk, you can walk a straight line, right? There's nobody in the world, not nobody, but very few people who are sober and healthy and stable who can't put one foot in front of another. So if you can do it here, how come you can't do it up there? What difference is it if you're 500 feet in the air or you're on the ground? It's a straight line, right? We're not falling over walking on the ground. We're not losing our balance walking straight. So why should you lose it up there? That's a metaphorical question, but really we're asking the question on life itself. Why do people fail? Why, our jobs are, what's my job? Our jobs aren't insurmountable. They're not jobs that we can't do. We're quite capable of doing Hashem gives you jobs that you can do. So why are we failing at jobs that we're capable of? And that's a very good question, right? What's the answer? The reason why people fail is not because we don't have the ability to do it. Every single thing that I'm giving, I can deal with. If I wasn't able to deal with it, Hashem wouldn't send it to me. He's not cruel. He's only there for our good. So there's two reasons why people don't succeed at life. They're really the same reason, but there's two ways it plays out. One reason is we're too scared to fall, so we never try. We get paralyzed in that little box at the side of the tightrope, and we're afraid to put our foot down. And we do it in shidduchim, in dating. I'm afraid to go on a date. I'm afraid to go on a job interview. I'm afraid to apply to the school I want. I'm afraid to go over to someone when I'm a kid and say, be my friend. I'm afraid to ask to be chosen for the play or to do the solo or to sing. We spend so much of our lives on the sidelines, in the wings, because we're too scared to put our feet down, even though we could do it. It's the fear of stepping onto the tightrope. That's the first reason we fail. And then we fail because even when we're brave enough to step on the tightrope and we force ourselves onto the stage, but we don't sing the way we could have sang because we're scared. And we don't walk the way we could have walked because we're scared. We fall because we're shaking. We sing, our voices crack because we're tentative. I don't make the money because when I go do sales, I knock meekly. I answer the phone and I talk on the phone and I don't do it with the confidence and the power it's necessary. There's two reasons we fail. One is that we don't try. We don't take the first step. And one is that when we try, we do it tentatively and reluctantly, and we're bound for failure. If a person would bring his whole character and personality to bear, he would succeed at all of the things that were offered to him. If you knock on the door with power and you talk and your eyes are lit up and people feel your fire, they want to do business with you. The lit up person, the person who's confident and proud, and he's in a good place. You wake up in the morning and you go to Shachris, and then you learn after Shachris, and then you go to work. They don't stand a chance. They're going to buy whatever you're selling. And everyone's going to want to hire you. They're going to want to date you. They're going to want to study under you. They're going to want to hire you as a student. They're going to want to sell you what you need and buy what you're selling. Because when you feel good and you live life without reluctance, you lose your tentativeness, you'll hit it out of the park. So the reason we fail in life is because of the fear that we're going to fail. Therefore, either we don't try, or we try and we fall. So you know what the secret of the tightrope is? The secret of the safety net is? The secret of the safety net is not to catch you when you fall. It's that when you know that there's a safety net, you're never going to fall. The safety net is the first thing, not the last thing. If it was to catch you when you fall, then the safety net would be the last month of the year. But our first month of a year is Nisan. We begin with the Seder. Your kids' first memories need to be the Pesach Seder. They need to take a nap so they can stay up. And they'll ask their questions, because you have one job at the Seder as a parent. And that is to convince your kids that Hashem will catch them when they fall. And if your kids know there's a safety net, no matter what they do, Hashem will catch them. They will live life. They'll be doing flips and jumps on that rope because nothing can go wrong. What's the worst thing? They're going to fall into this fun, soft, bouncy net. The purpose of miracles is not to catch us when we fall and to bail us out. The purpose of miracles is that we know that Hashem will save us. And Hashem will make it work. And if you know that, then you'll never need a miracle because you'll do it all yourself. Of course, the goal is to do it yourself and to climb the mountain and take no cable cars. But if you know there's a cable car and you know that you get tired, they're going to take you, you're not going to miss anything. You know that you're going to make it, then you live life freely with fire and no reluctance because the stakes aren't that high. And that's why Judaism begins with miracles. It's not a safety net. And this is the secret of why Hashem says, Atem Tacharishan. The first thing is you have to know is watch me. If today you're silent and you watch me and you see that I can do anything, then the rest of life I can tell you, Im hacharesh tacharishi, don't be silent. You're safe. You can be all in. And that's what we learn. And that's why the Seder is Hamakim. The night of the Seder is a night where there's no messengers, where you're not doing yourself. Hashem goes out, He himself. He smites the firstborns, he splits the seas, Hashem does it all. Because if you know that he does it, then you'll live a different life. And that's our job as parents. We go into the Seder, we don't know what our job is. This is your job. Your job is that your kids should see in your eyes and hear in your stories the unlimited nature of Hashem. Because we all want the same thing. We want our children to giggle and bounce their way through life. We don't want to ever see them scared and reluctant and foregoing their dreams and what they wanted and watching life pass them by. But everyone's reluctant because we believe we're going to splatter on the floor. So the first thing you have to teach your kids is that Hashem is going to save them, that Hashem does miracles. And then they'll never need a miracle as long as they live. That's the goal of the Seder. It's one night. It's a night of miracles. And then from then on, once you learn this, then never be silent again. Then you'll sing every solo. This is the lesson of Pesach. And this is Hamakim, Baruch Hamakim. Especially, listen, raising kids. I think that's why we say Baruch Hamakim by raising kids. You know, I remember when I had my first kid, we got every single book on parenting. And then you realize that they don't agree on anything. And then you realize that, you know what, the Torah speaks to all four sons that Hashem's going to make it work. If I didn't believe in Hashem, I don't know how I would be able to raise kids. Every single step is terrifying. Everything's scary. How do you do a shidduch? I'm going to marry somebody forever. How do you go on a date? How do you choose a yeshiva? How do you choose a community? Everything has flip sides and downsides. This is why in Judaism we focus so much on the miracles. We're hardworking people. We don't like shortcuts. We're not socialists. We're not looking for free rides. The purpose of miracles is to make you feel so safe that now you can have as many kids as you can have and never look back. And Hashem's going to make it work. And now I can love my kids fully and I'll have to protect myself and not care and not have them. I can throw myself into work and into everything. This is the secret of why we say in Shmona Esrei, those who know the Shmona Esrei, we say, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra Havogoyda Lelakenu. When I cry out into the name of Hashem, it gives strength to Elokim. Why does it change from the name Hashem to Elokim? Because this is exactly what we're saying here in the synopsis. that I can cry out to the name of Hashem, which is a name of mercy, that'll give me the strength to face Elokim. Kishem Hashem Ekra, when I cry out to the Hashem, the God of miracles, it gives me all the ability to face Elokim, the God of reality. My goal is to live in reality. But it's the knowledge of Hashem that allows me. And this is the highlight of Yom Kippur. The final punchline of all of Yom Kippur. We say, Hashem hu ha'elokim. Hashem hu ha'elokim. 7 times. What are we saying? The goal is to face Elokim. But Elokim is so daunting. Elokim is terrifying. I can fall. Hashem is Elokim. That Hashem fills the world. But beyond all that is Mikaimai hu yifen. He's really there. I'm repeating it. I wish I could repeat it 10, 15 more times. Because everything depends on this. Bottom line is everybody dreams. Everybody wants the same stuff. But then we spend lives frustrated. We learn young to say whatever. Words like whatever. Sad words that describe a sadness and a frustration. And we give up. Because the world is scary. You know, justice is beautiful. It's beautiful to know that there's justice and that Hashem gives you whatever you deserve. But as beautiful as it is, it's terrifying. And this is the secret of what it says, that Hashem created the world with justice, and He saw the Eina Miskayim, it's not going to work. Why won't it work? We all love justice. Right? We hate injustice. We definitely hate injustice, but we love justice. The idea that Hashem is going to give me exactly what I deserve, there's no cheating. You know, it has the good side that every kindness I did will be paid, but also every bad thing I did will be paid. And as sad as that is, it's sort of, you know, it's nice to know that, to live in a world that's fair. But the flip side of justice is terrifying. And if I don't work hard and I'm depressed or I'm broken, I'm going to starve. If I check out for a week, my kids might hate school and everything will change. Anything could go wrong. If every single thing is a result of what I do, you understand how scary justice is? We can talk all day long about the beauty of justice, of experiencing Masada because declined it yourself, but you have to understand the terror that comes with justice. And this is what Chazal describe in their wisdom, is that Hashem created the world with justice because He wanted us to experience Masada like kings. But Rosh Eina Miskayim, He saw that it wasn't going to work because it's too terrifying. And no one's going to do it. Everyone will just be in the wings of the stages, would've, could've, should've's. And you know, I just thought of something. I never thought, as I'm saying this, that's the image of the slave who's afraid to go free. He stands in the doorway, and the thing I'm thinking about now is the whole point here was the silence. We nail his ear to the wall because he was supposed to dream. But you didn't do the you didn't do the atem tacharishan. The reason why we're scared, why is the slave? Nobody dreamt of being a slave. Everybody wants to conquer the world for themselves. So when the slave is able to go free, he paid off his debt. He stole, and therefore he had to work for the master till he could pay off his debt. And it's paid off, and now he should go free. Why would he say, I want to stay? Right? So the halacha is he's entitled to say he wants to stay. It's his choice. But if he wants to stay, you have to pierce his ear in the doorframe. You know why? Because the doorframe is where you look out into the whole world. The dream of the slave is by the doorway, looking at that tomorrow. And all of a sudden, they open the door and he's stuck. He can't cross the threshold. And that's our lives. We're all nailed to the threshold. But why is it the ear that's nailed? That's what I'm just thinking of now that I just had this thought. It's because the reason why we get paralyzed by the fear is because we didn't listen first to Hashem and know that He does miracles. The atem tacharishan, you should be silent. Just open your ears and listen to Hashem. Once you've gotten your dose of watching Hashem do anything, you'll never be afraid to cross the threshold again. So if you're afraid to cross the threshold, let me nail your ear to the doorway. So you'll just sit there listening for a while. And when it finally penetrates, that listen to all the sound of Hashem in the world, then next time we ask you, maybe you'll run across the threshold like you should have in the first place. So this is our world. Justice is scary, beautiful, magnificently beautiful, but dauntingly scary. And this is what Chazal say. Rosh She'einu Miskayim, he saw that it wouldn't work, and therefore what did he do? Shotaf imay rachamim. He partnered with justice, kindness, mercy. Mercy. God added the miracles back to the world. Mercy. The miracle is the part of life that you didn't earn, where God just steps in and does it all himself. And God only did it because the justice is not going to work on its own. Hashem added the kindness. And that's, we want you to face Elohim, to face the justice in the world, and to build yourself a magnificent world where you can sit one day at the top of your mountain and knowing that you climbed everything yourself. But you're only going to get there when you're fearless. And you're only going to be fearless when you know that Hashem can catch you when you fall. And that's what you have to teach your kids. And that's your job for the Seder. One night. I mean, it's not one night, but this is the night. If you don't do it this night, it's like everything. You don't do it the right way, it'll take you forever to do it the wrong way. Try to do it the right way. Sit there by the Seder, and as parents, we have so many thoughts of what we're supposed to be accomplishing, and then we end up guilty afterwards because did I listen to enough of their things? Did we spend enough time on this? The kids were so tired in the end; they missed the songs. It's good to know what your goal is. Your goal is that your kids should bounce out of the Seder feeling like nothing could ever go wrong, because Hashem's going to save them. That's what the Jews felt like. You should be silent. Watch what Hashem can do. And then dance for the rest of your lives on the stage of your life. Wish you a beautiful Pesach and eternal nachas from your children and everyone that you touch. Good Yontif.